Welcome to the Intechnica Performance Podcast Series. This short podcast is part 4 in our topic, Performance Analysis Best Practice, and looks at recognizing performance defects during performance testing. So in running a performance test, what actually constitutes a failure? Well, a number of things can happen. For example, not reaching a concurrency or response time target. Some sort of unexpected application behavior. Erratic response time results, the appearance of errors, or even a loss of application availability. Any or all of these events would constitute a performance test failure. It's important to separate your failures into different types or different categories. This will enable better understanding of the impact and also the best approach to deal with the failure. From a business perspective, not reaching a concurrency or response time target is an obvious fail. From a release quality perspective, some sort of unexpected application behavior, erratic response time, or the appearance of errors would suggest some problem with the release. And from the infrastructure perspective, a loss of application availability. Looking at each in turn, business SLA, not reaching a concurrency target. Well, you have to ask yourself, was the target realistic in the first place? And what actually happened to prevent the target being reached? Similarly, response time. Was the target realistic? Response time targets tend to be much more subjective and are often aspirational rather than real. Trying to insist that all page requests take less than 1 second, regardless of load or transaction mix, is often a bridge too far and not achievable. We also have to ask ourselves again, what happened to prevent the response time target being reached? Did it just never happen, or did some other type of error occur that prevented this target being achieved? From a release quality perspective, unexpected application behavior, important thing to watch out for, that can be hard to detect because it may not always manifest itself in errors or even an impact on response time. If we're raising a purchase order through a use case and that purchase order is not completed properly, then that's certainly a failure. So understanding the nature of the problem is important. It goes back to making sure that our use cases are properly validated before we use them in performance test scenarios. Erratic response time, again, was this in response to increasing load? Was it there from the start? If it's there from the start, it tends to suggest more of a code or configuration problem. If it's in response to increasing load, it's more capacity related. This can easily be confirmed by graphing response time versus concurrent load, also looking at the standard deviation metrics which are captured by performance test tooling. And the appearance of errors, probably the most common indicator that something's wrong. You need to understand the errors. When do they occur? What do they mean? Are they warnings or something more serious? We're a little bit at the mercy of the amount of information that's fed back by the application that can be captured by the tool, but it's important to understand as much as we can about the errors. Were they in response to increasing load, or were they there all the time? Again, is it release quality related, or is it more to do with capacity? Are they related to specific transactions or even users? And can they be easily reproduced? From an infrastructure impact perspective, the usual result is some sort of loss of application availability. Again, we have to understand, is this related to a certain level of load? Was it preceded by the appearance of errors? Errors are often the first indicator that something's starting to go wrong. We need to look at when those errors first occurred. And then what infrastructure metrics were actually exceeded or exceeded recommended thresholds? If you can't answer that question, you have to ask yourself, did I have enough monitoring in place first to understand what was going on? And again, can the problem be easily reproduced? There really are different degrees of success when it comes to performance testing. If we focus just on the application, and going back to our example that we've used in a number of previous podcasts, if the response time concurrency targets that relate to search and add to basket are being met, we might assume that all is well from an application level. However, if we then look at the infrastructure and find high CPU loading, high memory consumption, maybe database problems, and taken together, this really represents a fail. But not monitoring the infrastructure, then this is quite a risky situation, and that we are being misled that all is well, when in fact the application infrastructure might fail with just a little bit more load. Just reinforces the importance of having enough monitoring in place to understand how the application is responding to load. So it's important to categorize the different types of results that you can get from performance testing. At Intechnica we use 4 types. First of all, complete success. Test completes without errors and meets the agreed performance targets for business, release quality and infrastructure. So this is the desirable result. Partial success. The test completes, meets business performance targets, however some errors have occurred that require review. After review, we may change the rating to complete success depending on the significance of the errors. Failure. The test completes but fails to meet business performance targets. Typically some significant errors have occurred during execution that have impacted the test result and require investigation. And then the epic failure. The test fails to meet business performance targets and actually fails to complete because of errors that have actually caused the test to fail, or we've had to abort the test prematurely. So in summary, recognising performance defects during performance testing, some takeaways. Make sure that the performance targets that are set are realistic. If you're trying to test to targets which the system clearly can't achieve, then this is very much a waste of time. Make sure you instrument the application and infrastructure comprehensively. You need to have the information available to make an informed decision about the significance and cause of any errors that may occur. Remember, a successful business performance target result does not always mean success, as we saw in our sample transaction shot. You have to understand the impact on the application and on the infrastructure to have confidence that the performance testing result is as desired. Don't ignore errors during performance test execution, very, very key. Ignore errors at your peril, however insignificant they may appear on the surface. Make sure you feed back problems discovered to the business or client as they occur during testing, because this is where the real value of performance testing is delivered. This ability to feed back real-time or near real-time information about the application to the test and dev team so they can quickly get on to investigating and resolving problems. That brings our podcast to an end. I'd like to thank you once again for watching. As always, please send any questions or comments to the email on your screen, and we'll be back again very soon with another set of performance podcasts.